with regards to the amount of money that has been made of that region in the last in decades, since the 60s. But obviously, that's not it. It really is the Nigerian government, both the federal and the state government and local government responsibility to ensure that these things didn't happen. But, we going back to the Abacha era, and the Ken Saro-Wiwa hanging, those were some of the concerns that they had pointed out, but obviously they didn't play out. There's, theories of what, the role that Shell supposedly or allegedly played with regards to Ken Saro-Wiwa's death back then. But it is what it is, I guess.
Moving on now to our next top trending story, it's about roads. If you're a road user in Nigeria, get ready to pay about 200 naira for your vehicle plying roads in the country, and trucks will have to go ahead and pay about 500 naira. This is a new policy that the Minister of Works and Housing, PlusTvAfrica, announced on Wednesday yesterday. He says that it's a new policy approved by the Federal Executive Council for toll gates across the country. And he basically explained that, this is part of concessionaires' policy to recoup investments, and that's under a new arrangement with the Highways Development and Management Initiative. Remember, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, maybe with Agule, talking about, borrowing loans from China and these other countries to come help us build our rail and road infrastructure, and, how these monies will be recouped. And they talked about, basically making sure that people pay tolls on these roads. That's the issue here. The fact that at the end of the day, it is Nigerians who seem to, will now bear the brunt of this, ensure that the federal government pays back. And people also express concerns. How safe really are the roads? When you look at the road infrastructure across the country, which roads do you say have been constructed, in recent time? We've seen roads that have been constructed and then one small rain falls and everything just dilapidates, everything just gets destroyed by the flood. So it makes you want to ask questions about the longevity, the durability of these roads, what kind of materials are they using, the skills of these road workers. And really, if these roads have been built to the best quality, I don't feel that Nigerians would have any cause to complain about these roads infrastructure or saying they're not going to pay the toll gates. But the fact that we've seen time and time again that these roads are not durable, the roads get bad in just a few months, a few years, and then you have to pay tolls on these roads. I feel that's really where the grievance of Nigerians are coming from.
The good thing with this story is at the end of it, it says that the ministers, noted that the tolling wouldn't start until the roads are fully motorable. I like that you've pointed out the fact that we never really have proper auditing with regards to quality of infrastructure that is built every now and then. People have questioned the type of trains that have been built, or the Abuja, Kaduna and the rest
we saw
that keep breaking down every now and then.
One flood made the railway just clogged up, and a rail that should be light speed became slim speed.
So people have questioned that, and I've always mentioned the fact that we don't have that level of quality control. When you hear that the government has, awarded a contract, for, a school, for example, nobody really looks closely at the contract details and what were the requirements in that contract, to compare that with the quality of school that was built. I'm just using school as an example. So it's pretty much the same thing with roads. When, a governor what's a contract, to build roads, and the roads are built and they, get damaged in 8 months or in 1 year, there's no questions asked. Nobody needs, nobody, gets to actually answer, deep questions about why, it was that quality. So there is that angle. But I've always agreed with the fact that we need some level of public-private partnerships in order to build infrastructure in Nigeria. If the government cannot fully fund certain types of infrastructure, infrastructural development, then of course we need PPP agreements to get that done. So yes with roads, yes with transportation, yes with healthcare, with every other thing. And if we get to that point where these things are properly and very well built, I don't think Nigerians, like you mentioned, would have any challenge paying 200 naira to pass, a toll gate, or 500 naira for a truck. That's what it says. But once again, according to the minister, these, tolls are not going to start until the roads are motorable. We just hope that they will actually go through with fixing all these very, very important roads for transit, for traveling across Nigeria. And before, of course, you ask people to pay for them.
All right. So finally, on top trending, if you're a supporter of former Lagos Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu for president in 2023. Chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Bode George, says something is wrong with you. I mean, that's a statement he made yesterday, saying that all supporters of Tinubu need to get their head checked, and that, you know, Tinubu is not fit to be president, and that if Tinubu becomes president, he will leave the country because he can never be a citizen of Nigeria under Tinubu. That really is the story there.
Oh, well, there's always that narrative that there's no permanent friend or foe with in politics. When these two people, of course, have their issues, you know, it's best to just stay out of it, because eventually the Nigerian people have gotten to realize that, you know, it's not really about them. You know, it's about, you know, personal relationships and political gains, you know, from one place or the other. But the judge himself, I think I remember him saying that he was going to leave Nigeria if, you know, a particular person won the election. He's still in Nigeria.
No place like home.
But, you know, it's actually a genuine concern when people say, you know, how much did you gain, or how much did you give, did Lagos benefit from, you know, Tinubu's time as governor? And if he is currently outside Nigeria receiving medical care, I mean, does it mean that there was no hospital built in Lagos at the time that he was governor, to ensure that every other person can benefit from, you know, proper health care?
Yes, I think that's it on Top Trending. We'll take a break here and return shortly. Stay with us.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast here on PlusTvAfrica. Now let's go to the newspapers of the press and let's see what we can share with you. Our guest will be joining us. Of course, I will introduce him right after sharing the major stories, making headlines across Nigeria today. I'm starting with the Punch newspapers. The big one there says, record envoy and diplomat arrive today. Indonesia defends assault. We shall take action after discussing with the envoy, says federal government. Nigerian diplomat, the aggressor, elbowed immigration officials as ambassador. Hush Puppy, 31 northern lawyers volunteer to defend Kyari against FBI. Federal government laments as abductors collect extra 24 million naira on Baptist school students. A businessman lands in Kirikiri for alleged defilement of 3 underage daughters. A sad story. Gani Fawahimi's son, Mohammed, dies at 52. Also on the Punch this morning, teenage herdsman with AK-47 rifle arrested in Ogun Forest. Police trail gang members. And presidency, Bode George rebukes Tinubu supporters, recommends checkup. Shell agrees 45.9 billion naira Ogoni oil spill payment 10 years after judgment. And also, Twitter has agreed to set up Nigeria office in 2022, says the federal government. We can see here 4,528 Nigerian doctors moved to UK in 6 years, says the council. And NARD strike, federal government always breaching agreements, alleges NMA. Federal government reintroduces toll plazas, Nigerians to pay 500 naira and 200 naira per trip. And finally, naira tumbles to 515 as dollar scarcity persists.
Let's turn to the Daily Trust. VAT's ruling. Federal government to lose taxes amid dwindling revenue. States with low revenue profile will suffer, that's according to experts. FIRS to appeal as Justice Ministry studies case. Rivers says we only interpreted constitution. Death wish. DSS grills ex-governor Bindo over audio on Buhari. Federal government set to lift Twitter suspension, Lai Mohammed. Fashola says we're ready to reintroduce toll on highways. Story on Bethel Baptist High School on page 39, 39 days that they've been abducted. It's school children in captivity. Salihu Tanko Islamic School, Tegina. Children have been in captivity for 74 days. Federal Government College, Benin Yori. Students have been in captivity for 57 days. Nigeria, fifth highest World Bank debtor, owes 4.8 trillion naira. Autumn says, to rig election in 2023, say your last prayer. Navy rescues 12 sailors from sinking fishing vessels off Lagos coast. And lastly, court remands herbalist others for killing man.
Moving on to the Nation newspapers. Toll payment returns on 5,050-kilometer federal highways. FEC OK's proposal. Implementation starts after completion of projects. DSS squeezes former governor and 5 others over anti-Buhari comments. World Congresses, APC gets petitions from 14 states. No plan to lead party again, says Oshiomhole. We can also see on the Nation this morning, header arrested with AK-47 in Ogun. 80% of artisans are foreigners. And Mohammed Fawahimi dies at 53. Kayamo says he's heartbroken. Okorocha loses bid to stop takeover of houses and others, and also Shell agrees on 45 billion naira compensation to Ogoni. Federal government and Twitter close to agreement. That's the last one on the Nation newspapers.
Finally, on The Guardian, International Youth Day. More youth take to gambling, cybercrime to escape exclusion. Experts weigh costs as federal government plans to unban Twitter. Platform targets 2022 to open local office. FDI's MSMEs government badly impacted as losses hit 169 billion naira 69 days after. Experts want investment in indigenous messaging apps. Also, the Guardian newspaper, WHO lists 3 new drugs for testing on COVID-19 patients. ICPC here has given an exclusive into how graft and unstable economy fuels insecurity. Autumn says Nigeria has never been more divided. Federal government reintroduced toll plazas on highways, says Minister, and Shell agrees to pay Ogoni people 45.9 billion naira compensation. Ms. Anyechok, Public Affairs Analyst, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So there's a judgment that was issued in June 2010 to award compensation to the sum of 45.9 billion naira to Ogoni communities. That really wasn't obeyed. And years later, we're seeing the Royal Dutch Shell Company saying that they're willing to make those payments today. Do you see this as good news? Or like Osagi earlier said, that, you know, it really doesn't make any difference on the pockets of those companies?
2 ways to look at it. The first is that better late than never. I'll look at it that way. The second is that it's not about the dent in their pocket, which, of course, like Osara says, is minimal, but the good it can do to the land. And my concern is I really pray and hope that a system will be put in place where the money will be judiciously spent, and not the one you tell me that, 10% has already gone to legal charge, 8% has gone to this, and all sorts of things. Let there be very clear guidelines. I want to call on all Ogoni elders to come together and devise ways of ensuring that this money benefits the generality of the area, particularly in the area of ensuring healthcare facilities and, of course, taking care of the younger people, instituting things that will set up the Ogoni youth, particularly as those who can have a future. I don't know what the terms are, but whatever the terms are, the Ogoni people should ensure that this money is a blessing to them and not a curse. So for me, better late than never. Could it be better? Yes, it could have been. Is it a drop in the ocean, compared with what they have gotten from the Ogoni land? Yes, it is. Can we do better? Let's take that as a first step, utilize it well, and then we'll be able to have reason to make a further demand.
All right. Let's also get your thoughts on the reintroduction of tolling on federal highways. The minister says cars will pay 500 naira and
200
trucks, or 200 naira, and then trucks will pay 500 naira. There's also 150 naira for buses, I believe.
Yes.
Do you see this as good news?
We live in a country where we thrive in living in denials. And I think that the federal government does not have money. They don't have money. And with this judgment on VAT, that is likely to even bring more hardship on the federal government. Consequently, the question is, how do we get to maintain our infrastructure in a way that is sustainable? If that is to be the case, then the first thing is that there are certain prices we've got to pay. Introducing the tolls ordinarily would be a good thing, but I want the government to tell me how the dynamics are going to work out. I want them to show me how the funds are not going to be siphoned. Because even when you go to a place like the airport and you're passing, you discover that there are sometimes somebody will just squeeze some things and put and does not collect receipt and leaves. Can we do it such that at the point you are passing, it's electronic, so that the people manning the gate are different from where the entry points are, such that you get a token and you get there and you drop the token and it opens and you pass, which means that we can get full value for money. And that unlike Nigerian oil, where the Nigerian government does not, to the best of my knowledge, have that meter at the rig, at the point of extraction, that can tell you the full volume that comes off the ground on a daily basis. If we are able to do the tolling such that we know that every single vehicle pays, and we don't need to go and count the money, we just look at meters and we know the amount of money, that will just remove corruption altogether. And then what is the management process of these funds released? These are all the details that should be worked out, and if that is done, I think it will be good for us. We start to have roads that are sustainable.
Okay, on the Daily Trust and the Nation newspaper, we saw the stories about a seeming end of the line regarding the federal government and Twitter, and the friction that they're having. So on the Daily Trust, it reads, federal government set to lift Twitter suspension. That's according to Lai Mohammed. We also saw the story that by 2022, Twitter would likely open an office in Nigeria. So we all know the story about how Twitter was suspended indefinitely in Nigeria 2 months ago. So they set up a technical committee to discuss this. And some of the agreements that they reached was that Twitter was going to register with the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria. was going to register with the NCC, was going to register with the FIRS, was going to open a Nigerian office, appoint a Nigerian country representative, and all of that. So when we look, in hindsight with everything that's happened, would you say that maybe this works out well for Nigeria because it seems that the country might be benefiting in terms of taxes and having more, involvement in the operations of Twitter? Or would you say that was not necessary to have happened at all?
We live in a country where we don't believe in cerebral governance. It doesn't need to take a fight for you to resolve national issues. It just needs for you to have a national think tank, economic think tank, political think tank. The presidency has all it takes, if it has the right person in it, for it to create groups, subgroups that are futuristic. In technology, what we don't understand is that the phone that they are using today, the technology was developed probably 15 years ago. Tested, there are people who live the future. There are people who think the future. They are like 20 years ahead. That's how technology is developed, and not a knee-jerk approach. And what bothers me is all these things. Did it need Twitter to delete the tweet of Mr. President for them to now start having this knee-jerk approach and all? It just needs us as Nigerians to sit down and understand what government and governance is. I could never be tired of doing this. I call on the elite. I call on those of us that God has privileged to enjoy this country. I use that, advisedly. Those that have been able to go to school one way or the other, to sit down and stop this narrative of Tinubu.
Okay, Mr. Ayatok, speaking directly to the issue, I'm trying to say that all these terms and conditions that the federal government has tabled before Twitter, would you say at the end of the day it's beneficial to us?
Speaking directly to the issue, yes or no does not solve Nigeria's problem. It doesn't. The important thing is, this could have been done way back if we had a thinking government. And let's play down on this analyzing issues that arise, because this book will always bring you issues to analyze. Issues to analyze. Should it have been? Should it not have been? The issue on ground is, what is our concept, understanding of government and governance? That's the foundation. That's the fundamental. This is good. This could have been done earlier if we had a thinking government, if we had a cerebral government. And that's where I'm coming from. Okay. It could have been done, but I'm not ready to be coming here to analyze how this man ate and the other. I'm not ready. I won't do that. I'm too busy for that. I'm more interested in what could have been done for us to move forward.
All right, Mr. Ayatok, can you quickly also say something? The death of Mohammed Fawayemi was announced yesterday. We had spoken to him, I think, early in June, on the June 12 celebration. That was the last interview that Plus TV had with him. It was announced yesterday that he had passed on at the age of 52 or 53. Can you quickly respond to that or say something about that?
Sad, unfortunate. I wish the family God's fortitude to bear the loss. I hope we'll have something to say something about the youth as well.
Hopefully. All right, and of course, there's a story on The Nation this morning that is speaking on the DSS arrest, and it says here, DSS squeezes former governor and 5 others over anti-Buhari comments. Is it illegal?
DSS don't have a lot of work to do, so they can work on that. People have opinion on Mr. President. I think as Nigerians, we should wish him well, but I don't know how that makes a headline, that somebody says, I don't wish the president well, and then that makes a headline in all national dailies. How? Today is National Youth Day. Do we understand what that means? And we're sitting down here telling somebody that, Mr. President, this should have. I wish Mr. President well. We should wish our president well. But for goodness sake, people are dying this night. People are dying this night because of malgovernance. Let's major on the majors and leave. If you would have noticed, I'm not good at all this analysis on people's situations. Somebody says, I don't wish president well, and that makes a headline across. Meanwhile, the headline
has just... The headline really is about the DSS quizzing these persons for
Because they
That's
said
what I'm
that they
saying.
wish that
That's
the virus, because what he said was that he wished that the coronavirus had taken the life of the president and that, you know, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo would have been a better
an
president.
irresponsible comment that should be at one inside story. That's an irresponsible comment that should be one inside story. What we should talk about is the economy. How do we go from here? How can that make a headline? That's gist. Gist cannot make headline. You understand? That's they say that great people discuss ideas, small minds discuss people. That's people, not ideas, not what will move this country forward. I think that's an irresponsible comment. Personally, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't wish my president bad. Do you understand me? But that's not going to make a headline. It can't.
Okay.
In this country.
Mr. Yetok, going straight to the International Youth Day topic, the Guardian newspaper has a story about this. They're saying that one in every 6 unemployed youth globally are Nigerians. They went on to say that youth innovation is a catalyst for development and that youths need to be empowered to participate in electoral processes. They say that chances of survival are slim. That's Nigerian youth saying this. And the headline on the Guardian newspaper reads, International Youth Day, more youth take to gambling and cybercrime to escape exclusion. In the age of social media now, where it seems there are lots of avenues for people to communicate with people globally, it seems that have opened up avenues for people to take to cybercrime. We've seen the classical case of Hush Puppy. Do you see this as something that could possibly die down? That maybe parents instilling values and morals into youths for this to be a thing of the past. This cybercrime and gambling.
Yeah, I'm privileged to be called the National Youth Headmaster. That's because for the past 20 years or so, I've devoted my time to working with the young people because we've misled the young people for too long. We tell somebody that is 35, that is a young person, is a youth and all those things. And you know that at that age, when you go to look for a job, they will tell you, sorry, you are too old. I mean, it's a paradox, it's a contradiction that we need to look into. So the Nigerian youth are amongst the most resourceful in the whole world. But our systems have not created wings for them to fly. Instead, our political system has succeeded in making the youth become their boys, in making the youth become their thugs, in giving the youth the impression that unless you kowtow to my aspiration, you cannot become anything in life. A young person has his political mentor who helps him to buy a car, helps him to rent a house, helps him to marry the wife, helps him to get his children's school fees paid, helps him to do everything. By so doing, creating a dependency syndrome and exploiting the young person and reducing everything about self-worth to next to nothing and turning them to political thugs. And the question is, when will we have a coalition of, older people who come to work and serve the younger people? I belong to an organization called He for She, which is men who have decided to join hands and defend women. We should also have a coalition of adults for the youth, where we start to think in terms of how these young people, their capacities, their capacities, let me use that, can be enhanced. So for me, it's such a contradiction that the most endowed set of young people in the world are becoming the most, endangered, it were. So today is a day where we can sit down and really look at the youth. Take this cybercrime stuff. I've related with them a lot. You can easily, by a policy, create an ecosystem that isolates cybercrime from the IT, which is the way of the future, that you must, as a policy, a national policy, every educated Nigerian youth should have a laptop, and not that the police should go after every youth with a laptop at his backpack. So we need to have a complete paradigm shift by harnessing the potentials of these youth in the right direction. So for me, it's a contradiction, and it's a day of sober reflection on how we can help the youth. The youth of Nigeria are not lazy youths. The youth of Nigeria are not recalcitrant. They just need role models. Some days back, I was talking to our elders. I said, when a governor sits on a podium, who do you see sitting with him? It's not that man or that young person that has done a creative thing. It is not that teacher that has excelled. It is not that businessman that you can tell where he's coming from. It is honorable chairman, honorable commissioner, honorable this. So to the minds of the young people, the only way for you to be something is for you to become honorable this, and that's a lie. That's not a sustainable future. That is politics, and politics is not about progress. Politics in Nigeria is about exploitation. And so the youth have seen that. Just get it whichever way, come in, become honorable, and the society says it's okay. How long will we as elders accept that? Finally, let me say this. I said something in the social media that went viral. Children are leaders of tomorrow. Youths are leaders of today. You can't call a 39-year-old person leader of tomorrow. It's wrong. He's leader of today. So let's change that narrative. Children are leaders of tomorrow. The youths are leaders of today. And we, the adults, must go into what I call responsibility transfer to the youths.
All right. Well, luckily, we have an extended conversation about that coming up in a bit. But thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. Thanks for joining us on a Thursday morning, Ezekiel Nyaito.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day. And happy Youth Day.
Oh, yeah.
All right, stay with us. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going back in history to tell you things that happened today, many years ago, the year 2000 and in 1964.
Stay with us.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 I dey pay.
On this day in history, August 12, 2000, something happened that no one in the whole of Russia ever imagined possible. It was the sinking of the Kursk submarine. Now, this submarine was as big as 2 fighter jets, and it was described as unsinkable. So you can imagine the shock all around the world when this disaster happened and this submarine sunk to the bottom of the Barents Sea on August 12, 2000. Now, all 118 crew members were later found dead. The cause of this disaster remains unknown. Now, talking about the size of this submarine, I mentioned that it was supposed to be unsinkable. They said it was even going to resist a direct hit from a torpedo. They said it had a reputation for being a war machine, size of 2 jumbo jets, pride of the Russian Navy, just lots of rep that this, submarine had. But sadly, the sinking of the submarine dealt a very big blow to the military pride, the reputation of the just elected president at that time. It had 2 nuclear reactors. It could reach speed of 28 knots. It was the largest attack submarine in the world, approximately the size of, 3 times the size of the largest subs in the United States Navy. It's unfortunate that the fate of the 118 Russian soldiers on board was unknown. Several nations offered to help, but Russia refused their help for about 2 days. They even refused to announce the sinking of the submarine for about 2 days because it seemed almost unbelievable. So they released movies about this in 2018, and but people really blame this on government negligence. Many years later, people continue to write articles, do investigations into what exactly caused the sinking of the Kursk submarine.
Actually, it's really shocking, and the most shocking part really is the part where it says the Russian government refused to help. Makes no sense, maybe because they chose to not admit that one of their best military projects had failed.
The biggest in the world at the time.
Or there was, or there is something else, that the world is not aware concerning the explosion that, led to the sinking of the submarine. But it makes absolutely no sense.
But when I think about this, it takes me back to the story of the Titanic. I mean, Titanic was really big,
Yeah.
And there were talks about it being the most unsinkable, and talks that even God could not sink the ship. It sank.
Yeah,
It hit an iceberg, and the story went down from there. And still with this one, it was said to be an unsinkable submarine. And
yeah, but I mean, this one now we're talking about an explosion. This didn't hit an iceberg or or melt.
No, it's about the fact that a statement was made about them that they were unsinkable. That's the point.
But you can be unsinkable, to some extent. I don't think there's anything that is completely, fail-proof. Whoever it is that made the submarine would know how it can be sunk. If an explosion of that magnitude should be able to sink whatever submarine. But anyway, it just feels bad, you know, how, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, I have a huge fear of water, because it's one of the worst ways to lose your life, especially to be in a submarine, you know, thousands of feet underwater, and, you know, there's zero help. You
Over
know,
70% of the human body is made up of water. Why are you afraid of water?
Because I can't swim that well. Anyway, on this day in 1964, the world lost one of the, well, I guess the founder of what we today know as the James Bond franchise, you know, Ian Fleming, who was the author of James Bond books back then in the 50s and early 60s. He died of a heart attack on this day in 1964. He was born on the 28th of May in 1908 and passed on this day. He, of course, was a British actor and journalist, the creator of the James Bond, the world's most famous fictional spy. His series of novels about the agent 007, based in part in the author's real-life experiences, of course, you know, like I mentioned, spawned one of the most lucrative movie franchises for today. He was, you know, according to reports, a heavy smoker and drinker, and you know, eventually passed on from heart disease. His last recorded words were an apology to the ambulance drivers for having inconvenienced them. He wrote 12 novels and 2 short collections about Agent 007, which together sold more than 18 million copies. So yeah, he wrote The Man with the Golden Gun, Casino Royale, Dr. No, and a couple of others that were, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang also was written by Ian Fleming. There's many of them, actually, 12 of them of the James Bond books. Some of them have been converted to movies, others not. So perfect time to ask, you know, who's your favorite James Bond character? So
the thing about me and movies is I love movies. I am a big movie fan. But don't ask me about the actors. I don't even remember the name of the actor, but I do love movies.
Yeah, so I think mine would be, you know, undoubtedly Pierce Brosnan. Daniel Craig, who eventually took over, never just really never, you know, gave, you know, the James Bond feel as much as Pierce Brosnan did. People would also say Sean Connery, but I didn't get to watch James Bond in Sean Connery's era. He was, I think it was the first James Bond, or it was James Bond from the 60s, yes. I didn't get to watch any James Bond movies from that era, you know, but in my era it was Pierce Brosnan, who was, for me, the most stylish and the most fascinating James Bond.
So we know that the latest James Bond movie, No Time to Die, was supposed to be released last year, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, it was supposed to premiere in some countries in Asia, but that was constantly postponed. But now I think they fixed the release date for October the 8th, 2021, for No Time to Die to be released, you know, in cinemas worldwide. Can't wait to watch that. Interesting.
Well, all right. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're talking Royal Dutch Shell now, and the 45.9 billion naira compensation that has been, they have agreed to pay according to a court ruling. What are the details that we may need to know about this? How do the Ogoni people really feel about this? And how beneficial will this be with the Ogoni people? We'll get into that discussion next. We're going to be speaking with Celestine Akpobari. He's an Ogoni land environmental activist. Coming up next here on The Breakfast.
You're welcome back to the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're being joined here by an environmental rights activist and an indigene of Ogoni land to discuss a topic we raised earlier. This was a judgment that the court delivered in Lagos in June 2010, and that's for the payment of compensation to Ogoni communities that have been ravaged by oil spillage. Many years later, in August 2021, we've heard from the lawyers of the Royal Dutch Shell confirming that they are willing to go ahead and pay that compensation of 45.9 billion naira to those communities that are involved. Let's now say hello to our guest, Mr. Celestine Akpobari, an Ogoni land environmental activist. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Akpobari, can you hear me?
Good morning, Nigerians. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
I can hear you. Good morning, Nigerians, and thanks for having me.
Okay, let's get your initial response to this judgment and the news when you heard it yesterday. How do you, and in fact the people of Ogoni land, feel about it?
Well, we all feel elated. We are happy, but no matter how much share pays, it cannot take away the pains from the heart of the Ogoni people, because quite a lot has been lost. The entire livelihood of our people have been lost. Lives have been lost. Maybe you've not gone through UNEP report on Ogoni. That is a death sentence. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a paltry sum. It is a slap on the wrist of Shell. And I think at the most appropriate time, the Ogoni people will be filing a suit against Shell based on the recommendation of UNEP, because Ogoni people will take nothing less than a $10 billion for the oil spills in the land. So this is one way forward, but like I said, we are happy, and we can say that Ken Saro-Wiwa was being very prophetic at the point of his death, because he said that the day of Shell in the dock was coming, and they will pay for all the atrocities. And we are beginning to see them. A few years back, they paid 57 million pounds to Bodo community. Now they are paying this. Very soon, the Ogale and Goy community bills will come up.
Okay, Mr. Akpobari, you said something earlier I wanted to follow up on. You mentioned that lives have been lost. So for people who might not understand the scale of the damage, I want you to help us break it down. How exactly have these oil spills affected the livelihoods of people in Ogoni land and in fact the Niger Delta? And how has it, lost lives and, just destroyed people like you claim?
Okay, if you go through the UNEP report, because that's the only scientific document now that we can, but even if that report did not meet up our expectations, but it is the only report available now that validates, what we've been talking about. That report says that the water we take in Ogoni land is 900 times worse than the level recommended by World Health Organization, and that there is hydrocarbon in the air that we breathe, and there is a cancer-causing carcinogen called benzene in every water taken in Ogoni, and that in every water taken in Ogoni is coated with crude oil about 8 cm. Yeah, that must surely be a death sentence. So it means that every person that is alive in Ogoni have been breathing in poison and eating poison, and that 5 feet of the land was dead. So everything in that environment smells death, and that some people were born and have lived all their life in this same environment, and there are no alternative drinking water or food for anybody. The same dead things are what we are eating, and that's why life has become so short in Ogoni. If you go to Ogoni weekends, the only thing that is happening is festival of burial.
Wow.
Everywhere is burial. So when somebody dies at the age of 30, you see people putting up their posters and said that thanking God for a life well spent. For 30 years, traditional rulers are young boys. If I wanted to be a chief, I would be a chief now,
All right, Mr. Akpobari.
So, life has become.
Mr. Akpobari, what would you describe as, or what would you say would make sense as justice for the Ogoni people? Aside the 45 billion naira payment to the people, what else would you expect that should be done, that you would say, okay, this looks more like justice for the degradation of their land for the last couple of decades?
Yeah, one thing that should happen is that the government should come out to declare a state of emergency in Ogoni, total emergency in all areas, health, education, security, everything in all. I mean, just declare a special status, just like you said, Abuja Federal Capital Territory. Just declare emergency there, then exonerate Kensarawa and all those who were murdered innocently. Because from what we are seeing now, it shows that the conspiracy between Shell and the government to just murder Ogoni people, we are just to silence them. So the declaration of state of emergency, can you imagine that UNEP released such a terrible report and government is yet to react in any way apart from commencing the implementation of that report, or what they call the cleanup now. Apart from that, nothing has been done. I mean, don't the government think? Don't they think, or do they believe that human beings don't live there? This is a death sentence that has been presented to you. That audio report was commissioned by the federal government themselves, and not the Ogoni. So we are yet to see justice. Money cannot bring back one head of Kensarawa. Not to talk about the over 2,000 persons that were murdered in cold blood innocently.
Okay, you made a statement earlier saying that there's a conspiracy between Shell and the government. Could you explain?
Yeah, Shell and the federal government, they are two sides of the same coin. They all go to bed together every night. Because while the government is distributing, all the money that government makes come from the oil exploration activities that Shell is fronting. Shell have been arrested quite a number of times by Shell officials. They just call the military. I can't forget one time myself, Reverend Nimubasi, Che Begura, and several of us, we went to Eureka gas plant just to observe the Popo Gary drying things. And before we knew it, 2 full truckloads of soldiers has appeared. Who called the soldiers? The security officer, common security officer of Shell. They have the right to summon people. In 1990, thousands of people died in Umochem, including the king. People ran to his palace for safety. They entered there, bombed the house, killed the king, killed his children and everything. So they have the power to call the military or the riot police. And that power can only be exercised by the commander-in-chief. So if Shell could do that, then it means that they are partners in crime with the government of Nigeria. And government in Nigeria cannot remove themselves from all the crimes that Shell has committed in this country, because the government is supposed to regulate the activities of Shell. Shell is just like a guest here. They do the amount of crime that they commit here because they are permitted to do so.
So I'm actually...
I want us to, let's look further at the government, like you've mentioned, and bring it down to the state level, and also maybe also the local government level. Yes, the Shell is meant to be under the regulations of the federal government. Whatever they are doing, or whatever crimes they are allegedly committing, should not go unnoticed without the federal government. But I want you to share your thoughts on how the state government and the local governments around the Ogoni land and the whole Niger Delta may have also failed to make life better for the Ogoni people.
Yeah, definitely. If you look around, there is a total absence of government at all levels, whether they are local, whether they are state, especially what you call 13% derivation that is supposed to go directly to community people. So the state government, the agencies of government like the NDDC, they are not absorbed from this. They are all part of it. But when we say government, all of them are part of the government. But the Ogak part of them, they are the people that sign agreements with the oil companies. They are the people. The oil is under their executive order. So they get their work from Abuja and they come to your community. So even if it is the much respected gravesite of your father, they brush it away if it is on their right of way. Whether it is school, whether it is a church, whether it is newly cultivated crops, whether ripe crops for harvest and you are yet to harvest and they are on their way, they brush it aside and take it because they are escorted by soldiers and they can do anything and get away with it. So the government hiding under the Land Use Act or whatever has taken everything that the people own from them, and that's it. So they are all partners in crime.
So, Mr. Akpabori, when we look at the wealth generated from the Niger Delta, what exactly should that place look like now, in contrast to what it is?
Well, that place should look better than Dubai because it's a very small place. And the amount of money that has come out from there should make the Niger Delta better than today's Dubai. So, but it is unfortunate that corruption and lack of vision has made our people, to be the way they are. But like they say, whenever a man wakes up, he starts his day. The people can still wake up, take their destiny in their hands, and ask that their life be better, and it can still be done.
Mr. Akpabori, I want you to give me specifics. Like, what's the state of infrastructure in that area? Look at the schools, the roads, just be specific in how you feel that Ogoni land should look like when you say Dubai. Like, I want you to give me the specifics of, the future of what Ogoni land should be. Mr. Akpabori, can you hear me? Okay. It's unfortunate that we seem to be losing Mr. Akpabori. He is an Ogoniland environmental activist speaking here on The Breakfast about the recent court judgments. This was obviously, issued about 10 years ago, 2010 June, asking, Shell to go ahead and give compensation to communities in Ogoniland, the sum of 45.9 billion naira for all the oil spill and the damage to their communities, to their lives and to their health. And talking about that UN document you mentioned, I am looking at it. It really details just exactly what, people in those Ogoni communities are facing. You can imagine how someone, can't even drink water, and water is laced with crude oil. You can imagine just the level of health damage. And what he said really struck me regarding how there are burials, funerals every weekend in a region that, people say should be better than Dubai. It's just unfortunate that years and years after the cleanup was said to have started, you see there's a report by Amnesty International that puts the level of implementation of that cleanup at a mere 11%.
Well, 11% might, I don't want to doubt Amnesty International's figures, but I think the 11% might even be pushing it. It's really very dependent on what they mean by cleanup and, what the requirements, from government are for the Ogoni people. After cleaning up their waters and cleaning up their farmlands, which, to be honest, I don't think it's even possible to really completely clean up those areas, but at least you can do it to some extent, where it now becomes more, habitable. But aside that, it doesn't stop there. There's still demands for better governance for, those communities. They still need hospitals, they need schools, they need better roads, they need, infrastructure generally. They need factories. There's so much that they should be able to afford.
And there's tourism potential. In other places where there's like water bodies, you find that those places attract, tourists in their thousands.
Well,
so why can the Niger Delta be like that? These things don't exist
in the Niger Delta. And I always would like to remind, yes, I know that, we're aware, but it should never be left out of the conversation that Shell, no doubt, may have had its, the allegations against Shell and the, the crimes that they have been, mentioned to have committed with regards to environmental pollution and degradation in Ogoni land and the whole of the Niger Delta. But the conversation concerning how much the Nigerian government itself, whose sole responsibility is for the lives and security of the Nigerian people.
And the welfare.
And the welfare of the Nigerian people, has also completely failed the Ogoni people.
I mean, he
It's not just
describes it
Shell.
like them going to bed together.
Yeah, so it's not just Shell. Shell, yes, should work with the laws that the Nigerian government sets, for them. They should operate with the regulations set for them by the Nigerian government. And when they fail, they should be cautioned by the Nigerian government, which we've not really seen happen. But aside that, the Niger Delta people themselves, and it's something that I wish they would do a little bit more of, and that is to question their government at the state and the local government level. Yes, I know that these oil companies have a lot of questions to answer, but how many questions are being sent or being put to the state government, to the NDDC, to the local government? There's local governments across the whole of the Niger Delta state that receive hundreds of millions of naira every month. I'm not saying annually. Every local government receives 100 to 150 to 200 million naira every month. That is the allocation.
I want to believe that they do that to some extent. I mean, that's the reason why they were able to take this matter to court. I mean, these are Ogoni communities who put heads together to take this matter to court back in 2010 that led to this judgment we're talking about today. Protests that are being held. I mean, we invited somebody in the Niger Delta, one of these journalists, who talked about the level of environmental damage that people are facing. So I want to believe that the people are doing something. We're seeing this in the news. It's now left to the government. Really, it's all in the government hands now, because you heard him mention that these, oil companies, they have the military in their pockets and they carry the military along with them to terrorize the people. Should the military not be protecting the people of Ogoni land? Should they not be protecting us? Why should they be bought? Why should they be paid for to terrorize the people that they should be protected?
Oh.
Questions that we need to ask, also important questions long term regarding...
They shouldn't be out of the barracks in the first place.
Exactly, regarding... Okay, Mr. Akobari.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you were sharing your thoughts there about how what exactly Ogoni land should look like with the level of wealth that currently is in that place.
Yeah, I was just telling you that last week I led a protest, to occupy the East-West Road. That road leads to 2 refineries, 2 seaports, another college, a petrochemical plant. It leads to the oil and gas free zone. It leads to Akwa Ibom State, Cross River, Andoni Opobo Krika. That was unnecessary for us community people to shop a place that have all the economic presence. That road, apart from Apapa, is the most economically viable in Nigeria. So that shows how the government and the oil companies treat Ogoni people. A journey that should take the Ogoni people at 24 minutes. We stay on that road for 2 days. I am not exaggerating. 2 days to get to Ogoni. A journey of 24 hours. So, going forward, like I said, they should declare a state of emergency. All the schools in Ogoni are dilapidated. They're not here. I am not saying something that is not right. I have gone to General Hospital at Bori, Ogoni, where I come from. If you want the doctors to conduct operation, surgery on your family people that you bring, you hire a generator. In the 21st
You would hire a generator?
In an oil-producing territory, it shouldn't happen.
Wow.
All right. Mr. Akobari,
So I'm not talking about electricity. Electricity is luxury. That one is luxury. You wouldn't even say it. But the livelihoods of the people are predominantly fishermen and farmers, that have been destroyed. The livelihood of the people have been completely eroded. So, I mean,
Mr. Akobari,
in a place where people are walking corpses.
Yeah. Well, I want you to, finally speak on, now that there is this judgment and there's going to be 45 billion naira given to the people, what do you expect to play out, and how many families, communities will get to receive these funds? Do you think that, they will at least celebrate, these funds being given to them? How do you expect this to play out?
Well, we have gotten money more than this in Bodo. But in Bodo is a small community. So when you see 45.9 billion, to you it looks so big, but if you look at the number of people involved, it's not that too big. I'm telling you that we are going to put up a suit of $10 billion US against Shell, based on what we now know from the union report. So that what you saw there yesterday is like you take my shirt from me and cut one small button from the shirt and give to me. That's what has happened. So, yeah, we are happy that for the first time, a Nigerian court will stand their ground to say something that is reasonable. Because what we've seen from the past has always been shared bribing the court, and they continue to adjourn the cases until all the litigants will die. That's what we have been seeing. But I'm happy that maybe they've heard that the overseas courts at The Hague, the US, and London have started giving favorable judgment against shares. So they are now learning that. If there is any joy, any excitement I have, is that a Nigerian court will stand their ground. That's the only joy I have. Otherwise, that sum is paltry. It's paltry compared to the damages and the atrocities the company has committed in Ogoniland.
All right. Celestine Akobari, Ogoniland environmental activist, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We will reconnect with you again as quickly as possible.
Thank you for having me.
All right, brilliant. Stay with us. Now we're talking youth.
Yes, International Youth Day. We'll give you more details about that regarding how Nigeria has fared in a recent ranking of countries around the world.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
God from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Welcome back to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Nigeria has been ranked 161 out of 181 countries on a global youth index. The index, of course, measures youth around the world and the level of growth and development that youth in each country basically get to experience. It, of course, puts education, employment, health, and some other details into perspective. We're speaking this morning with a policy strategist, Dayo Israel. Good morning, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Thanks for being with us. I'm going to start with asking, if this, came as a surprise or in any way a shock to you. It's it's Youth Day, but would you read a story like this and say, oh, that's shocking? Nigerian youth seem to be doing a lot better than 161st position.
So first, I wanted to say Happy International Youth Day to young people all over the world, particularly young Africans and young Nigerians who are striving every day to make the best out of themselves and their environment and their career, despite the challenges that come with living on this continent of Africa. Because for many years, living on the continent of Africa has been very challenging for young Africans. There have been rising issues of unemployment, there have been issues of lack of access to proper health care, lack of access to basic education, lack of access to, a lot of ravaging conflicts across Africa, from Rwanda to Congo, Brazzaville, to DRC, and to many other parts of the continent. Even the young people in Nigeria, for example, for many years in the military roles, face some more challenges. But with the return of democracy for our country and also the widespread of democracy on the continent, we have begun to see gains in youth development across the continent. And so a day like this is to celebrate 75% of the population of this continent. Who owns the future? Who are going to be the ones to sustain the development and the change that the leaders of today are making? And that is why on this Youth Day we're calling for stronger engagement of young people and participation of young people in policy making in issues that concern us. Because if you're building a future for us without us, then you're not really building a future for us. Because who's going to sustain that change that you're trying to make? And that's why I'm happy at what I see in some parts of Africa. For example, in Lagos, where you have a lot of young people represented in policy issues in the cabinet. For example, in Lagos, our Commissioner for Finance is a 36-year-old young man. Our Commissioner for Agri is also at the age range. And also the Commissioner for Innovation and Creativity is also Special Advisor in Innovation and Creativity. And we see that in different agencies of government across Nigeria. That is one index that we can measure, for example, that we're making progress in development. So, of course, we also have a lot of special assistants of governors and senior assistants governors. But the reality of that is in many other states, you will see many of that for youth development alone. But I'm actually when I see states like also Lagos and Nasarawa, the Commissioner for Finance in Nasarawa, economic planning as well, and I think so in Cross River and a few other Southwest states, and of course Lagos, are people who are of our generation, the younger generation, and who are getting a chance to be able to prove themselves, to be able to make a difference, to be able to blaze the trail, to be able to show capacity, and also to be able to effect change in issues that concern us. So that metric is just on youth participation. If we now look at youth employment, what we've seen on the continent of Africa is that over the years, there have been challenges about employment. Our population is blowing up every day. Now you realize that we can't, or the society does not have enough jobs to engage the energy of our generation. But one thing we're excited about is that the young people are not waiting for government to give us a job. We're creating the job in ways that they don't even understand. And so it's a lot of young people. Yes, it doesn't mean that they're not too bad ends who are doing the wrong thing to make money. But the reality is that there are plenty good ends who are doing the legit thing to raise money, and they are raising unimaginable kind of funding from private equity, from venture capitalists. I'm talking, for example, this company, Pada, for example. You have all these tech companies, IT companies, and Della, companies like that who are raising $500 million, who are raising $100,000, who are raising $100 million, who are raising $10 million, $20 million to drive growth, to create jobs, to revive the economy. And before it used to be about working in all companies. Now some of these young people are making money that even 5 companies today cannot earn because of their creativity, the tech abilities that they have, the building have. So in terms of economy, it's not fully spread yet, but we're also making little progress at the size of the hand of a man. But that's showing that young people are also driving and not waiting for government to build economic stability for us. We're coming out to make a difference. So in terms of youth participation, we're seeing growth. In terms of employment, we're seeing growth. In terms of education, we have more young people who are also...
Mr. Israel, can you hold on? I want us to take these indices one step at a time, right? You've talked about politics, and you've also talked about the economy regarding employment. Let's go back to the issue of politics, because the indices they used politics, economic, they used employment, they used health, inequality, and all of that. So going back to politics, I know you mentioned a few people, especially in Lagos, that seem to be doing well. They are young people, and they're representing Nigerians in their different constituencies. But generally, you find that in Nigeria, the political voice we hear almost seems to be limited to the social media space. It seems Nigerians are fired up for advocacy, but really when it comes to now putting their money where their mouth is, regarding, vying for these political offices, and as well as even coming out to vote, there seems to be something missing. Voter apathy in the last local government elections we've seen. And you also consider things like, high cost of nomination fees, to buy nomination forms and things like that seem to limit us. But how do you think we can get past these limitations to make sure that more youth get a seat at the table?
So the reality is that the challenges exist and prevail. And I'm going to be honest with you. The challenges are so systemic that you need a long-term approach to solve them. They've been built by people who have been in the system for many years, 20, 30 years of systemic creation that, we can't literally finish it because of a lot of the apathy that our people have. But in the midst of that systemic challenge that we see across the country, we're also seeing some progress. So, for example, in the Lagos State local government election I just conducted, we have a fantastic young barrister who is the chairman of Koshope local government, a young man under 40, who as well has faced challenges before. He had run for House of Assembly, he didn't get, as a candidate, he didn't win the election. He ran for chairman, he didn't win the election. But this time around, he's able to get his aspiration and able to become the chairman of Koshope local government. We have many other young people, the vice chairman of Otobiso local government. We have the chairman of the Korea Valley local government. Of course, like I said, this is still a little proportion, but we're seeing the signs of progress. What we have to do is, as far as people are mentioning, power is not served a la carte. We're not going to get this. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a short race. We've got to put in our effort and our best into it, and know that this is a long-term journey. It's not going to be a victory in one day. I'm being through this myself. I contested for House of Assembly, I contested for local government chairmanships, and I didn't get the ticket for both elections. But I didn't give up. I kept on pushing and pushing. Today I sit on the board of the Lagos State University Education Board, helping to support quality assurance and a lot of other activities led by the chairman of Tibet. I'm providing little. I'm the youngest person on the board. And for all my colleagues who are on the board and for executive chairman, I provide a fresh perspective of young people. So I may not have been elected, but I'm standing on that board, supporting them with fresh ideas, supporting them with my youthful energy, and that's another channel to leadership. So we might not get into the elective offices because we don't have, and see, it's not going to finish in a day. The system is woven to push and to resist the emerging generation. But thank God that in places like Lagos and Ogun State and other parts of Nigeria, like I said in the South, you're beginning to see an opening where we're beginning to get a seat at the table. And I said to young people, if they don't give you a seat at the table, go and make your own chair and bring it to the table.
Fantastic
and that's what
way
we're
to
doing
wrap
now.
it up, Mr. Israel. Fantastic way to wrap it up. If they don't give you a seat at the table, build yours. Thank you very much, policy strategist Mr. Tayo Israel, and happy International Youth Day.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue the conversation we began yesterday, actually all week long, regarding the All Progressives Congress and the legitimacy of the chairmanship of Mai Mala Buni, governor of Yobe State, regarding that caretaker committee. This was debated in court. The Supreme Court gave its judgment, and lots of controversies there over if Buni should resign or not. Let's talk about that after the break.
Point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken.
Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts.
I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school. Because society expects Then you them go to. home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Welcome back to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. The Progressives Governors Forum held a meeting on Sunday, and that's to discuss matters arising regarding the All Progressives Congress and the legality of the May Malabuni-led caretaker committee in the All Progressives Congress. Now, this issue has generated lots of controversy in recent time, and that's because of that Supreme Court judgment that seemed to just tip the scales. And we've invited a lawyer, Mr. Abayomi Alagbada, to shed more light on this. Good morning, Mr. Alagbada.
Thank you very much for having me.
So this particular issue remains a highly controversial one. And when that Progressives Governors Forum met on Sunday, the results of their discussion was that they were going to wait for the president, who's currently in the UK, to come back before they make any decision. But before the president returns, talking about this matter, I want us to consider the legality of Buni being the chairman of the APC Caretaker Committee. Because I remember quoting the APC Constitution as well as the Constitution of Nigeria to APC members who seemed to debate that issue about the legality of Buni's chairmanship. It's Article 17 of the APC Constitution, which says that no officer in any organ of the party shall hold any executive position in government. And Section 183 of the Nigerian Constitution also went on to say that a governor shall not, within the period where he holds office, go ahead to hold any other executive position. But it seemed that the challenge here was to determine if the position of a chairman caretaker committee is an executive position. Is there a way for you to help us unbundle that and to determine if Buni should, in fact, under the law, be a chairman of that caretaker committee as a sitting governor?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the proper way to start is to look at the decision of the Supreme Court, which would seem to have made a
open the can of worms.
Yes, yes. The law, as I know it, is that the majority decision of the Supreme Court, or a court, for instance, in the Court of Appeal, you have 3 justices. If 2 decides on a position and 1 dissents, it is the majority that is the decision. Now, in this case, you had a 7-man panel, and then you have the position of the 4. Now, people are discussing the minority position. The position, as we have it today, the law, as it relates to Akeredolu and Jegede today, is the position of the 4-man panel. Sorry, the 4 men in the majority side. And that decision is very simple. They are saying that Akeredolu was properly presented as the representative of the APC. Buni, who is, I agree, sitting governor, has not done anything in contradiction to what the provisions of Section 182 of the Constitution or 183 of the Constitution says. Now, look at a Governor Fayemi. Governor Fayemi is a sitting governor in Ekiti State. Governor Fayemi is the leader or is the chairman of the Governors Forum in Nigeria today. If Fayemi can hold those 2 positions together, what makes Buni different from Fayemi? Now, I'm coming somewhere. I'm coming somewhere. The reason I'm saying this is a caretaker committee. It's doing that in an acting capacity. Now, look at your family, for instance. Let's zero in on the family. You have your family routine on a daily basis. That's a particular way you do your thing. And then all of a sudden you decide to change in a different direction. Can a stranger to your family question what you have done? That is the argument for me. Because for me, this is an arrangement within the APC. There is a situation on the ground. The former chairman had to leave. And, even nature itself does not allow for vacuum. Somebody has to step in, even if it is an acting capacity. This is what Buni is not receiving payment. I think the extension of that Section 183 is that, is Buni being remunerated for what he's doing? The answer is no.
But we do not know that.
The answer is no. I can tell you from where I sit. Now, you see, internal decisions of a political party remains their problem. A member of that party can challenge it because he's a member of the party. When a total stranger, and then don't forget, we're looking at an election petition. Election petition is very narrow. Very, very narrow. All we are looking for is what the election conducted, the parties who contested the election, were they properly presented, and did the party declare, who was declared winner, properly declared.
But
those are the issues.
But when we look at the judgment, do you realize that one of the issues, that is raised is the fact that Jegede failed to join Buni in that suit?
No, Jegede could not have even joined Buni. Buni is a sitting governor. He has immunity both on criminal and civil matters. The reason why I mention that is that
when you look at the facts of Akeredelu's candidature of
yes.
the All Progressives Congress, it was Mai Mala Buni that actually signed his nomination form. So that's why the PDP is saying that's something they should have done. Join Buni as one of the in the suit. But it's just that these 4-man panel, or rather the 4-3 judgment, said that well the APC was joined, so that really covers Buni.
Section I think it's clause 17A of the Supplementary Regulation and Guidelines for the Conduct of Election. It's a regulation by the INEC. It says that only the national chairman of a party and the national secretary can submit names of their contestants or candidates. Now, that is a regulation. But if you read Section 138(1) or 2 of the Electoral Act as amended 2010, it says that regulations, even though they are not abided by, even though they are contradicted against, cannot on their own invalidate an election. See, these are legal issues that have already been taken care of by the relevant laws. Now, if Jegede has a problem with the election, that problem has to be within the confines of that election, not the process of APC. I think we should be focused on what we are arguing here. The process within which APC operated is their problem.
Yeah, well, so the challenge, and I think the Buhari to, of course, give a decision concerning this. Why do you think that is? If the law already states what exactly is right and what is wrong, do we still need to wait for the president?
It goes back to what I said earlier. I said this is a family issue. Look at your own family. You have your wife, you have your children. You direct the affairs of your family in the manner you deem fit. Now, a total stranger cannot come in and tell you this is what you do.
Well, including Festus Keyamo in this.
I don't want to go into... There will be an arrangement that will be put in place to checkmate all of this in the future. That is what I think. But I don't see why this argument is stretching in the manner it's stretching. Because these are issues that generally can be dealt with within the APC. It's an internal issue.
How do you respond to Festus Keyamo's statement that the Supreme Court judgment has just weaponized those who might be aggrieved by the APC to go ahead and challenge any congresses that might be conducted in the future?
I don't know who will do that, because you see, the position that most people are taking is the minority position. It's not even the law. It's not the law. The decision of the majority is the law. So if my Lord Ejembe Eko has gone to town to incorporate principles of employment, because my Lord said, because APC is represented, then Buni doesn't have to be sued. The principle of vicarious liability applies. With the greatest respect to my Lord, I don't agree. This is election petition we're talking about. It's very narrow. You cannot incorporate all of those principles into this position. I don't agree. So my position remains that the position anybody should take in respect of this matter is the majority position, not the minority. That is the law. You see, dissenting views are for future. The Supreme Court can come tomorrow and say, oh, we are reversing ourselves. We want to take a look at the dissenting position. That is the Supreme Court.
But isn't that a huge enough risk to consider? If the Supreme Court takes that decision back.
Because the question you ask me is, how many times has the Supreme Court?
Yeah, well, if there is that possibility at all, isn't that too much of a risk to take going into elections?
You see, like I said earlier, the political environment as we have it today is already charged. People on the other side of the APC are looking for weaknesses to hold on to. The court is supposed to be a neutral body. Look at the law as it is, state the law as they are, and move forward. Now, there is no reason why judges should not dissent. Of course, if you disagree with your learned brother, you dissent. But you see, in dissenting, we have to be very careful. What I have seen in the minority position of that court is not something that should have come up.
What do you expect when the president returns?
Well, I expect that they will tidy up things. They have started taking steps. They've started taking steps. The governors are meeting. I'm sure this issue will be addressed. See, nature abhors vacuum. Buni has to come in because their substantive chairman had to leave. What the mistake here for me was that, maybe some people did not sit down properly to think, this man is a sitting governor. That may be an issue. But again, who is perfect? Things happen every day, even in our individual lives. We take decisions sometimes that we'll have to look at again and review. So let's not over-label or belabor this issue. So
just finally, right? There's, the contrary opinion about the morality. If we've done our checks and balances and said, okay, maybe the law says it's legal, regarding Boni's chairmanship, but when we look at the moral angle, and analysts say it is politically suicidal for the APC to allow Boni to continue to be chairman of the caretaker committee. With all this controversy, would you advise that Boni steps down?
No, but Boni doesn't have to step down. The party should take a decision.
Or should the party go ahead and constitute a national working committee?
Of course, but the party will do that. I think that
so do you think
that's the direction they are taking.
End? That will be the solution to this crisis?
In my mind, yes. Because, you see, most of the people agitating against this structure, this present structure, are people just looking out for weaknesses to bring down the APC, and particularly to attack the person of the president. You don't have to agree with the president on every issue. He's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as of today. Things happen every day. Our responsibilities as citizens is to ensure that things work in Nigeria. So leave individual party problems for the party. Even the PDP is having their own issues. Are they not resolving it one way or the other? So why are we making the APC issue a national discourse? It's a political party anyway. They will make mistakes and they will reconvene to correct themselves. Let us stick to the law. The law is that Akeredolu was properly elected as governor. Let nobody bring in extraneous arguments to tilt the law.
Okay, so let's wait and see how that National Working Committee will be constituted. Remember the whole crisis that occurred in 2020 regarding that, the NWC and its dissolution. Well, Mr. Abayomi Alagbada, lawyer, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this issue.
I'm grateful. Thank you for having me.
All right, and that's where we will be wrapping up our discussions this morning on The Breakfast. If you want to catch up, remember to go to our social media platforms. It's simply at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram, and same with our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
And I am Anetta Philip.
500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Thanks for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. Multinational oil company Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria has agreed to pay the sum of 45.9 billion naira compensation to some Ogoni communities of Rivers State ravaged by oil spills some years ago. The monetary compensation, which was ordered by a federal high court in Lagos about 10 years ago, is to be paid to the affected communities through their lawyer, Lucius Nwosu, SAN. SPDCN's lawyer, Aham Ejelamo, SAN, told the vacation judge of the Federal High Court in Abuja, Justice Ahmed Mohammed, that his client has resolved to pay the money to the affected communities. Earlier, Ejelamo had urged the court to direct that the money be paid through the chief registrar of the court in a bank account to be opened for the purpose. It was later agreed that the money is paid to the affected communities through their lawyer, Nwosu. And government officials will not be exempted from paying road tolls in a new open tolling policy approved by the Federal Executive Council. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, made the declaration on Wednesday while briefing State House correspondents at the end of the FEC meeting. While the open tolling system will not begin immediately, Fashola revealed that the framework for the broad policy was adopted at the meeting. He explained that the policy will guide the new tolling system so that local people, states and local governments, as well as all those who manage roads and interested investors, will understand the nation's tolling policy. Fashola further hinted that after wide consultations with various sectors, including the National Assembly, only diplomats and military and paramilitary officials would be exempted from the electronic toll collection on the dual carriageways pronounced eligible for tolling by the federal government. And also in the news, the federal government says the ban on operations on micro-blogging platform Twitter will be lifted in a matter of days. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, gave this update after the week's virtual Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Providing updates on the government's negotiation with the microblogging site, the minister gave more details of the conditions given to the platform, saying most of them have been accepted. He said the area is still pending, such as Twitter setting up an office and having a Twitter staff of management cadre that will serve as the country's representatives were being discussed. Governor Mai Mala Buni has said the APC is a party for all and will continue to act on its words. The governor made this known on Wednesday in Abuja while inaugurating the party's appeal committees for its recently conducted ward congresses. He noted that the congresses to produce the party's organs across the country started on July 31st and went substantially well. He added that it is expected that wherever and whenever there is competition, of course, there is bound to be contestations. And the Chief of Army Staff has urged insurgents to lay down their arms or face the consequence. Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya revealed this during the flag-off of a flight welfare for troops of Operation Hadin Kai and its personnel at the Air Force Base in Maiduguri. The special monthly flights will convey troops on operations and those on pass to their destinations. Yahya said Nigerians also have responsibilities in the fight against insurgency, kidnappers and bandits in the country.
Well-meaning Nigerians have something to contribute in our fight against insurgency and other criminals, whether they are bandits or kidnappers and other violent criminals. Already you can see we are getting them in droves, surrendering already. And we urge them to continue to surrender and lay down their arms and to the line of peace. Line of peace is the way. It's the way for development. It's the way for peaceful living. It's the way for peaceful coexistence. Otherwise, you cannot escape the wrath of the armed forces of Nigeria in synergy with other security agencies and services and stakeholders.
The newly appointed Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Ahmed Abubakar Audi, has assured that the agency will bring insecurity to its nearest minimum in the shortest possible time, though he refused to divulge these strategies openly in order not to give criminal elements across the country a clue of what will befall them if they do not desist from engaging in illicit and illegal businesses. He said the agency has intensified the training and retraining of staff of the agency on this new triangular strategy to confront the present reality on ground.
If I go into details, it will be tantamount to divulging my strategy that I am adopting to curtail the incidence of insecurity. But I like to say that the Civil Defense Corps that you know before is not the one that is now. Now there is a renewed vigor, and we have come up with a triangular formation of dealing with insecurity.
He says the security situation in the state is relatively calm, explaining that efforts were ongoing to sustain it. Obaseki stated this while reviewing the state security situation for the month of July after a joint security meeting with all heads of various security agencies in the state. According to him, the reports considered show that security environment in Edo is relatively calm. Commissioner of Police in the state, Philip Ogbadu, also corroborated the governor's position. And still talking security, the new Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG, in charge of Zone 3 Command, says the trust deficit between the Nigerian police and the public must be broken as a key strategy to bring about a robust intelligence gathering. The new AIG said this at the Zone 3 Command headquarters in Yola, the Adamawa state capital, where he has officially resumed duty. Our correspondent reports.
Daniel Pedro is the new Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 3, Yola, for Adamawa and Taraba states. He says the police must position itself in a manner where there is public trust, which will aid the fight against crime. The new AIG said security strategies will be updated as every police formation will be reactivated to tackle crime.
1. Intelligence-led policing. 2. Policing within the ambit of the law. 3. Respect for the fundamental rights of citizens, irrespective of status. 4. Zero tolerance for corruption. And 5. Synergy with the public and other legitimate security agencies.
He says Adamawa and Taraba State will no longer be a safe haven for kidnappers and criminals. He calls on residents of Adamawa and Taraba State to cooperate with the Nigerian police by giving them useful information that will help trace criminal hideouts.
Going to be a synergy between the stakeholders and the police. I want to break that trust deficit between the police and the public. So that anybody be free to walk down to his area commander, to walk down to his DPO, to walk down to the CP. Anybody is free to walk down to me and give me information in confidence. I assure you, such information will not be leaked out, better information, and you'll be very, very happy with it.
But for his deployment as the new Assistant Inspector General of Police Zone 3 Yola, Daniel Sokari Pedro was the Deputy Commandant, Nigerian Police Academy, Woody, in Kano State.
The Nigerian Police and the Navy have promised to continue working to strengthen cooperation and security apparatus. Mr. Johnson Kukomo, who is the Police AIG Zone 2 Headquarters, Onikon, Lagos, hinted on this during a courtesy visit to the Flag Officer Commander, Western Naval Command. PlusTV Africa's correspondent, Destiny Momo, has more details.
Now, this is the headquarters of the Western Naval Command in Apapa, Lagos. The FOC commanding officer just welcomed the AIG Zone 2 and in a courtesy visit for the two commands to enter into a cooperation so they can work together for the security in the state. The function of the Nigerian police is to protect lives and property. They are to prevent, detect, and investigate crime. What about the Navy? They are to protect our waterways against pirates and militants, foreign attacks, coast guard duties, and more. The AIG Zone 2 is here on a courtesy visit to the Flag Officer Commander, Western Naval Command. They speak much about synergy between them for greater effectiveness in combating crime.
I've come to thank him for the cooperation, understanding, and synergy between the Navy and the Nigerian police, and to solicit for more understanding and cooperation, because police as an organization cannot do it alone. No single organization can do the job alone, and that is why I'm here. One, to familiarize myself, let me know him, let him know me. We interface, and we see what we can possibly do to collaborate efforts in area of fighting crime and criminalities in our areas of responsibility.
Rear Admiral B.J. Bassa, Flag Officer Commander, Western Naval Command, appears favorably disposed to this synergy.
I feel highly honored that the AIG could make out time out of his tight schedule to come and pay us a courtesy visit. We believe that with this interaction, it will further cement the relationship that has been existing between the Nigerian police and the Nigerian Navy. Going forward, we think the relationship will take a new level in line with the direction of the government that encourages cooperation and synergy between agencies to fight the insecurities and the criminalities in our society.
This cooperation between the Navy and the police is coming with so much expectation. Destiny Momo for PlusTV Africa.
States across the country are struggling to curb the spread of COVID-19's Delta variant. The nation is now averaging more than 700 new cases, according to the NCDC. The NCDC added that the country registered 790 additional infections on Wednesday, and that's a sharp increase from the 610 cases it registered a day earlier. Lagos State set a new record on Wednesday with 574 cases, and infections in River State jumped to 83. Ondo 38, Ogun 31, Oyo 23, Delta 10, the FCT 9, Ekiti with 7, Edo 6, and Osun State 4. Anambra and Bayelsa recorded 2 cases each, and Plateau State 1. 3 states, Kano, Nasarawa, and Sokoto, reported 0 cases. 1 new death was also recorded on Wednesday. Since the start of the pandemic, the fatality count is now 2,195. And New Zealand plans to allow quarantine-free entry to vaccinated travelers from low-risk countries, and that's from early next year as part of a phased reopening of its borders after being shut last year due to the pandemic. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said on Thursday. Ardern said the government will move to a new individual risk-based model for quarantine-free travel, and that would be from the first quarter of 2022, and it will establish low, medium, and high-risk pathways into the country. Ardern said a self-isolation pilot project will be started this year, and new testing and vaccine checking systems will be set up at borders.
While the pandemic continues to rage overseas and the virus continues to change and mutate, the best thing we can do is lock in the gains achieved to date while keeping our options open and giving ourselves choices. And a careful approach that says there won't be 0 cases, but when there is one in the community, we crush it. is the best way to maintain our normal lives while we monitor the twists and turns of COVID-19 over the next 6 months. We're not in a position to fully reopen just yet. When we move, we will be careful and deliberate because we want to move with confidence and with as much certainty as is possible. Rushing could see us in the situation many other countries are finding themselves in, where after sustained periods of case numbers falling due to vaccination, they're finding them rise again after relaxing their settings and opening their borders.
Still in the news, despite the ongoing strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors, its chapter at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, has converged to discuss challenges and the way forward in the sector. At the event, Commissioner for Health, Ekiti State, Dr. Oyebanji Filani, says in order to reform the Nigerian healthcare system, there is need to understand the challenges with a view to preferring possible solutions. PlusTvAfrica's correspondent Mercy Ebopo has more in this report.
The event, which is held virtually and in real time, has a huge attendance of resident doctors, prominent medical practitioners, among others. Its theme, reforming the Nigerian healthcare for sustainable development. During his keynote address, Commissioner for Health, Ekiti State, Dr. Oyebanji Filani, speaks of the problems faced by the health sector. He says having an understanding of the issue is paramount.
In one sentence, I have attempted to summarize the challenge of the Nigerian health sector as a misalignment of our health system functions and goals. Conceptually, there are 3 health system goals. The first is health, which simply means improving and maintaining the health of the population. The second is responsiveness, which focuses on how well the health system as a whole, meets the expectations of the population. And of course, the third is financial protection, which ensures that you and I and every household in Nigeria can go to bed knowing that at any point in time they use healthcare, it would not lead them to financial ruin.
Dr. Oyebanji Filani also says government cannot be left out of the equation of providing healthcare services. Meanwhile, General Secretary, Association of Resident Doctors, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Samuel Okirinde, says the conference has born out of the need to salvage the health sector, which is in a critical state.
The other theme, some of what I've mentioned as well in my presentation, is the role of stewardship, ensuring that stewardship, the ability to finance healthcare, and investments that we made in human and fiscal resources for health allow us to, to strengthen service delivery and enable us to be able to improve healthcare for the population.
We need a reformation. We need the total health sector. Okay, as regarding financing, what are the innovative, what are the sustainable, what are the collaborative ways of sustaining? It is a fact that the government alone cannot finance healthcare. So we need to begin to think of other ways in which healthcare can be financed. Hence, the need for this program.
Some of the participants are of the opinion that government should broaden its tax net to widen its revenue sources as it looks towards diversifying its economy and also improve funding for the health sector. Mercy Ebopo for PlusTvAfrica.
Now, stories in other parts of Africa. Zambia's President Edgar Lungu has cast his vote in what is a keenly observed election. Lungu is seeking re-election and will try to fend off a perennial opposition challenger. That's 59-year-old Hakainde Hichilema. But in total, 16 candidates are vying for the presidency. Lungu came to power in 2015 after winning a disputed snap election to finish the term of President Michael Sata, who died in office. He was then elected to a full 5-year term in 2016, although his main rival again alleged fraud. Zambia is one of Africa's most stable democracies. The country will go for a second-round vote if none of the candidates gets more than 50% of the votes cast in this election.
Please let them come and vote and go back home and stay and wait patiently and peacefully for the outcome. I hear some politicians are advocating for people to hang around the polling centers. That will just bring chaos. I've set the example, I've voted, I'm going home to stay. Listen to the radio, newspapers, television, and wait for the results to be declared. That's what a good citizen does. So please don't hang around polling stations. You just get confusion, congestion, and unnecessary anarchy. The best thing to do is cast your vote quickly. Go.
Moving outside Africa now, a tourist helicopter with 16 people on board has crashed into a lake in Russia's Far East. There were 8 known survivors. 13 tourists, including a child, and 3 crew were on board when the Mi-8 crashed and sank in the Kuril Lake on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Emergencies Ministry rescuers and divers had been sent to the area to search for those still unaccounted for. According to preliminary information, the aircraft was en route from the village of Nikolaevka to the Kuril Lake and the Kodutka volcano when it crashed. It was carrying tourists from Moscow and St. Petersburg. In business news now, commercial flight operations commenced at the Bayelsa State International Airport on Wednesday, with the United Nigeria Airline UNA aircraft touching down at about 3:45 p.m. The aircraft, which took off from the Murtala Mohammed Airport 2 in Lagos at exactly 3 p.m., had on board the state governor, Senator Doyediri, among other dignitaries. A mammoth crowd of jubilant Bayelsans had thronged the airport from early in the morning in order to witness the historic event. Addressing the crowd on arrival, Governor Diri said full commercial flights would commence in 2 weeks based on bookings made.
This is an airport that will open up Bayelsa in terms of tourism. This is an airport that will open up Bayelsa in terms of economic development. And so, this airport is critical in terms of transportation, the economy, and tourism. And we believe that those who wanted to come into Yenagoa, but for one reason or the other couldn't fly into Yenagoa. For example, the chairman of Nigeria United Airlines is flying into Yenagoa for the first time in his life. And so Yenagoa is open for business, Bayelsa is open for business.
And now in entertainment news, Davido, with close to 21 million followers, has emerged the highest paid Instagram influencer from Nigeria and second highest in Africa after Mohamed Salah. He ranked 53 globally. According to Hopper HQ Richer list, Davido earns $120,300 per sponsored Instagram post. And this does not include any compensation he receives for participating in commercials for the promoted products. Also on the list is Yemi Alade, who ranks number 67 with 14.46 million followers and makes an estimated $88,100. She's followed by actress Funke Akindele Bello, number 70, who has over 13 million followers and makes $83,600. And in sports now, Kepa Arrizabalaga made 2 shootout saves as Champions League winners Chelsea beat Spain's Villarreal 6-5 on penalties. They've now added the UEFA Super Cup to their trophy collection on Wednesday. Mendy was one of the first to congratulate his teammate, with Chelsea lifting the trophy for a second time. And Argentina's Diego Schwartzman powered past Benoit Paire of France to advance to round 3 of the Rogers Cup on Wednesday. Paille held his own in the first set before Schwartzman won a crucial break to close the set out 7-5. After that, there was no looking back for the Argentine, who went on to dominate the second set to win the match 7-5, 6-1 in an hour and 20 minutes. The world number 14 next faces Roberto Bautista, and that is after the Spaniard beat Tommy Paul of the United States in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4, later on Wednesday.
First set, Schwartzman. Schwartzman. Game set and match, Schwartzman.
That's a news brief. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. Thanks for watching.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be in terms of the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books to just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would, stack up with any book, published, elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think, what would be the most important tip for me to them would be just, they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome on the show. It's a Thursday morning, Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa, and I'm still saying it. I still try to imagine if you see what goes on behind the scenes before this show starts. It's a different program entirely, I can assure you. My name is Wale Scott. Welcome on the show. Bukayo Tinubu.
Good morning.
Good morning.
At least
I've got Niro Adegoke on the show this morning. We call him Nebroski. Of course, he's coming through via Zoom. Niro, good morning. I can't hear you yet, Niro.
Good morning, Wale Scott. It's good
Welcome.
to be alive.
Welcome on the show, Niro.
Yeah, welcome.
Now, let's talk about this first. I start the show this morning on a very sad note. Sam Sochukuma Okwaraji, on this day 30 years ago, slumped on the pitch during a World Cup qualifier in Lagos and was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. Okwaraji's death gripped Nigeria and left the football-crazed nation stunned at the loss of a rising star. Among the many things he will be remembered for was a famous quote about his allegiance to country over club. It's been 30 years since this real and true Nigerian patriot passed on while on duty for the country. Keep resting in peace, Samuel Sochukuma Okwaraji. Nero, 30 years ago today, Okwaraji died. And Etim Essen, a former footballer, said Okwaraji would not have died if we had good preparations for emergency in case something happens to sportsmen on the field of play.
Yeah, Etim Essen is right. Actually, I can still remember now, just like yesterday, 30 years, I was watching live from the television in Nevada when we heard that Okwaraji had been taken away from the stadium. The next we heard that he is dead. So it's been very, very unfortunate about our medical response in this country. And up to now, it's still happening. I think a lot of people, that's why some of them are applying their trade outside in case they have any little injury or some of them, because our medical assessment here is not what we can talk about. But we thank God, at least for his life, he spent, and a lot of people are still looking forward that he did a lot for his country. He chose the country ahead of the club. What a patriotic Nigeria. But very unfortunate, this is where we are today.
Mukayo, before I go back to Nero, Samuel Okwaraji had a bust, or has a bust, at the National Stadium in Surulere. And his mother, I took a picture near that bust. Unfortunately for me, I was wearing a white shirt. So I put my elbow on the bust and the whole white shirt was stained eventually. That's how dirty it was, you know. That's how we treat our fallen heroes. This guy fell down, slumped and died at that National Stadium. You have a bust for him, you don't take care of him. His mother died recently and she complained about not being taken care of by anyone. She died suffering. And you ask yourself a question, is Nigeria worth this? Is this country worth being patriotic about, really?
If you take sentimentality out of it, no. No with. Because, I mean, I'm a Nigerian and I want to be patriotic to my country. I want to sacrifice. I really want to be. I want to believe that I could lay my life down for the future of this country. But the past keeps leaving such a stinging taste on that. It makes it difficult. I mean, they say judge people by past behavior. If you judge Nigeria, Nigeria's leadership, Nigeria's treatment of its heroes, athletes, and even war heroes, you can't say with any positivity that there's something worth defending.
I have been told by fans, my fans, on Twitter and other handles, and they tell me that the reason why they like my program is because I speak with a lot of passion. I don't pretend about it. When I say I'm sad about something on my show, I'm not an actor. I'm a presenter, an analyst. I am sad. I'm not acting to be sad, you know. I really am sad, you know. Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, has started preparations for the Super Eagles Qatar 2022 World Cup qualifier against Liberia, which is billed to hold in Lagos on September 3rd. The Super Eagles will begin the second round of the qualifying series on September 3rd against Liberia and Lagos and travel to Cape Verde for their second game in September before meeting the Central African Republic in a double-header between October 6th and 12th, with Lagos hosting the first leg. They will then play against Liberia and Cape Verde again between November 11th and 16th. The group's winner will play a final playoff against the winner from one of the other 9 groups in March next year for a ticket to the World Cup built for Qatar next year from November 21st to 2022. Now, let me come to you on this one. Before we go to the matter for today, a list will be drawn up for the Super Eagles, say today or tomorrow, and we have games against Cape Verde, Equatorial Guinea, and of course, the first match is September 3rd. What do you think about our Super Eagles and their chances of qualifying for the World Cup?
I think this is going to be it's supposed to be on paper. It's a straight qualification for Super Eagles, but in football, I think our preparation will definitely determine on how far we can go. We've seen in so many matches that matches we thought Super Eagles will definitely either they draw or actually they couldn't even win that match. So I think they have to prepare very well, pick the right set of players. That we are going to qualify from this group. I'm so certain that at least we have to be the number one. We have to qualify for that group.
I will come to your matter. And when I say your matter, you know what I'm talking about. But we'll come to that. Now, fans queued for hours on Wednesday, yesterday, to get their hands on a Lionel Messi jersey after the Argentine soccer star signed for Paris Saint-Germain. Messi joined star-packed Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday after leaving Barcelona, the club where he had begun and expected to end his career. Delighted fans raced to get their hands on the €5 $194 a stock flew off the shelves in PSG's flagship store in central Paris. All the fans expressed their disappointment that the player had left Barcelona FC, where he had been for 21 years.
Obviously, I'm a big Barcelona fan, also a Messi fan. And of course, I'm going to follow him anywhere he goes. Bit sad he left Barcelona still a big fan, but I'll always support him, and of course I had to come here to get a shirt.
We said it on the show. Let's say it again. It is a good business idea. Forget the field. Forget the technicality on the field of play. Forget what Messi can do on the field of play. Signing Lionel Messi. We heard that 300,000 jerseys were sold in 7 minutes. Good business. Really. Let's leave the field. Let's leave what he can do on the field of play. Let's look at his package, his brand. He sold 200,000 jerseys in 7 minutes.
I hope that was not all bought in the same location.
Of course not.
Interestingly enough, I think going forward, owning a Messi jersey from Barcelona.
You saw them there. People were actually struggling. See this queue to buy a Lionel Messi jersey. Really? Come on.
Owning a Messi Barcelona jersey right now will be a collector's item going forward.
No doubt.
But interestingly enough, many people have returned jerseys that they bought recently in anticipation for this season, thinking Messi was going to stay in Barcelona. Now, PSG are going to reap the benefits of having a player like Messi, because one of the things that comes with a big-time, big-name players coming into the club is that the accountants tell you that this player is going to add so much revenue to the club because of jersey sales, because of potential fan base increase, and PSG already benefiting from Messi's. And he hasn't even set a foot on the pitch. If Messi gets an injury for the rest of the season now, they've already made money, significant money, that they don't have to pay back. So, and corporate sponsors are lining up, vying. Broadcasters are trying to get in on the action, get a piece of the Messi real estate. And it's going to be a wonderful windfall for PSG.
Okay, now, Nero, I'll come to you and then we'll talk about, we're talking about jerseys right now. And we said that Messi's jerseys are taking over. People are buying. We hear 200,000 jerseys were sold in 7 minutes. Lionel Messi 30 of Paris Saint-Germain. Now you have a jersey program you're organizing, or you've been organizing, and it comes up very soon, precisely tomorrow. What are we expecting in this one? What's going to be new about this your jersey party?
Actually, Messi is selling less than 7 minutes, more than 300 jerseys. It's not new. It's not even new again, because he did that for Barcelona, and Barcelona are still indebted up to now. Same thing with all this. Lionel Messi is the brand, is the one that is gaining from all this. But coming to what we do here is not to celebrate them away from their destination over there. We have a tradition that the new season kicks off tomorrow, and we are starting with a jersey party here in our hood in Lagos, Abule Ega. So another Lionel Messi jersey will be displayed in that party. Me, I'll be flagging on the one I'm putting
even
on.
The fake one fake one will be displayed too.
Yes, you'll see the people putting on Lionel Messi jersey here, but not in France, but in Abule Ega here. Yeah. So it's a festival to usher in the new season across Europe. So everybody is invited. Just don't on your jersey, your preferred team. So even if you have a Ibat jersey, it's allowed. Canopilas, you are welcome. So it's just a tradition every year. So if you are coming with Messi, come with Lionel Messi himself. We are not that expensive over there, so we are managing ourselves.
But we will see jerseys that are from Nike. We will see Nike. You know, it's different jerseys we will see. Abi, what do you think, Moya?
The variety. I mean, when Nigeria released its official jersey a few years ago, and we saw how many copies were made, and some are still wearing it on the streets of Lagos now, even though it has faded.
Correct. But Nira, what do we expect to see? Apart from wearing my preferred jersey and coming to there, what else? Music, what will I see there? What are we expecting to see?
The place is known to a lot of people in Lagos State. It's a big club. It's a lounge where everybody always come to just enjoy themselves. But this time around, it's about the football season. So you will see some big DJ celebrities. Then you meet some OAPs, just like you two. You'll be there doing and a lot of guys in the football world and also in the entertainment environment. So they always be there, just to make sure that the day is fit. And then we have a protocol. The COVID-19 protocol will also be observed. So we have to check your temperature, and we make sure that we follow the COVID-19 guidelines.
Nero, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We will be there. I'm not promising Mukai will be there, but we will be there. I will be there tomorrow. And of course, it's going to be a fun-filled day. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Wallace. You're welcome.
Thank you. Now, Chelsea fans hope that Romelu Lukaku's impending arrival at the club delivers a Premier League title. Fans were speaking ahead of the UEFA Super Cup against Villarreal and praised the decision to resign the Belgian. Chelsea are expected to pay a fee close to £100 million for the striker, with supporters describing its good value. Really, Mukail, is Romelu that big value for Chelsea? Timo Werner comes from the wings, Hakim Ziyech from the wings. They've got Christian Pulisic, who I think is a 9 for me, but he's been shifted somewhere else. But everybody is making it seem like Lukaku